walking into the sanctuary this morning, looking up and seeing the light behind me and seeing what appeared to me to be the face of Christ and the reflection of the light coming through our stained glass windows. I thought of a man I met in Siberia. It was 1994. We were out in the middle of nothing in Siberia, literally outside of two men, and this little short guy came in. He didn't come up to my chest barely. He probably weighed 150 pounds, 200 pounds, built like a fire plug. And he came because he heard there were people teaching about the God. That's how they always referred to the Bible in church. They talked about it as the God. There were these people coming to teach about the God. And here we were, it was cold, it was freezing. He waited a long time through a long presentation through a movie. He listened to teachers, and then he came up to me. And I don't know why he chose me. He had these gnarled hands. He worked with the train. He began to tell me this phenomenal story, a story I'd never heard anything like before, about a cross that appeared in the snow to him after a train crash. Everyone was killed in the train crash except for him, climbing to get away from it into the icy snow of Siberia. In a moment he thought he would never survive. He looked down and all he could see was the cross of a train. And there, in a communist nation where he had been raised without God, he surrendered his heart and his life. And he said in that moment he saw the face of Christ. And then he looked at me and he just asked this question: have you seen the face of Christ? With such passion, I didn't even know how to respond. I barely knew what he was asking. I said, pardon me? And he said, have you seen the face of Christ? And here I was, a pastor, traveling thousands of miles away from everything I knew to teach about the historical Jesus. And here was this man, uneducated, simple, with this incredible experience and epiphany in the ice, asking me this question: have you seen the face of Christ? And here in Riverside this morning, walking into our lobby in the dark, I thought possibly the miracle wasn't that there was light reflecting through a window on a wall, that somehow in the moment as I was alone in the darkness, I thought, that looks like the face of Christ, but that God drew me back to a moment 26 years ago. And I remembered that little man who grabbed my hand that had such strong calluses on it, his hand, not mine. And his one question: have you seen the face of Christ? Have you seen the face of Christ in your life, in the world around you, and the things that you do? In Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter that I've been teaching from this month and studying all month long, it says, when your children ask you, how did you get this land that you didn't dig the wells and you didn't plant the vineyards, how did you get this land flowing with milk and honey? Tell them it was God. It was God who liberated you from Egypt. It was God who freed you when you were slaves. Tell them it was God. That's how we got this land. How did you get this wealth? What do you tell people when people ask you why your life is going well today? You might try, it was God. And when you look up in the darkness and you think, oh, maybe your mind's just playing tricks when you see something on the light, remember back to a moment when you were with someone who touched your heart. Maybe you didn't get it all in that moment, and the time captured your heart. Something spoke to you. And remember that in seeing someone who's speaking to you clearly, possibly you're seeing the face of Christ, and this is what the world is meant to be about. As God moves and speaks to us, you were not created for a life of mediocrity. You were created for a life that's absolutely miraculous. You were created to wake up out of the darkness and step into the light. You were created to tell your children the way that they should go, that it's God that liberated you. And that, yeah, even when it seems mysterious, and even when you don't understand it, that you've seen the face of Christ in the simple and the poor and the hurting, in the calloused hands of a hardworking man who was rescued and had a moment of epiphany that he couldn't hold back, and he traveled miles just to share it with you. I remember that man. I've seen the face of Christ in him. Hey, today, go out, and the people you meet, face of Christ is in them, face of creation. They're brothers and sisters. They're given to you by God. Don't miss the miracle in your life today. Make it your moment. It's waiting for you. Step away from mediocrity and into the miraculous. God bless you. Make this an absolutely wonderful day. And everything you say and do, I'm going to go maybe have a cup of coffee. Maybe kick back for a few minutes, clean up, get ready to come back to the office. Have a fantastic day. Debbie asked me to go sailing today. She never asked me to take the day off work. That's what I ought to do, is take the day off of work. Have a fantastic day.